Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast, and I am your host Vanessa for this journey. We're going to be challenging some stereotypes, shattering glass ceilings, really looking at what it takes to live richly and to design a business that's going to support the life that you really want to be living. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips, tools, and strategies along the way, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey. Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. And today we're going to be talking about a really important part of growing your business, which is vision. And also what gets in the way of you establishing a clear and compelling vision. The reason vision is so important for your business is it's like a guiding North Star that you're always able to come back to realign yourself and what your team is doing, what your strategies are, because it's that direction that you're headed. But here's what I often hear from a lot of business owners is they're too busy to even think about vision. They're in the day-to-day, right? They're firefighting in the weeds, and then they don't even know how to set vision. So sometimes they might even confuse it with it's just a few core goals. Now, whilst goals are part of a vision, it's not the full picture, right? So in order to establish a clear and compelling vision, it needs to be just that, right? Does somebody else understand what it is you're wanting to create, the direction that you're wanting to go, and can they get on board with it? So that's the clear piece. Like, can we really paint a picture of what does it look like? And then compelling, right? Is it exciting? Can we get people on board? Does it energize you as the business leader? Really, really important. So crafting that clear and compelling vision is really step number one. Now, I would say one of the other mistakes that gets in the way as well is frankly thinking too small. We craft that vision and goals in terms of what we think we can achieve rather than what we truly, truly want to achieve. Your vision should feel somewhat scary. It should feel somewhat out of reach. It should demand of you that you have to become a different version of yourself in order to achieve this. It means that you're going to shift your mindsets, your skill sets, build new capabilities, build new relationships, find new ways of doing things to achieve that vision. Otherwise, it's not compelling. So funny enough, when we go through this exercise with our clients, we often find that, we talk about what is it that you really want? Like put all those things down that you really want to achieve and start to craft that vision. Clients get all of those initial ideas out of their heads, the things that they think they want, perhaps the things that they've been wanting to do for a long time. And then we'll take them through a second iteration of that exercise. And this is back to, what is it you secretly desire that you really haven't dared to share? You haven't shared possibly with anybody else. You haven't even written it down. You certainly haven't put it down here. And you know what? There are always two completely different lists that appear. And they typically are about the things I think I should be saying I want, the things I probably believe I can get. And then there are those secret desires of what they really, really want and the impact that they're here to make. So when you're thinking about your vision, I want you going into your secret desires. Like it's permission to really dream big and outside of the box, because oftentimes your vision, it doesn't need to be achieved in 12 months. In fact, most compelling visions are going to probably be 5 years and above. And here's the beauty of that is that when we have a longer time frame, our mind is often more creative. It doesn't get blocked by thinking there's no way I can achieve this in the next 12 months, right? We kind of get into that wishful, somewhat even delusional thinking, like really get into that creative thinking space, and it opens up and expands that vision. And I would say last point I want to make on this today is when crafting a compelling vision, one of the other big mistakes that founders and women business owners make is they get too fixated on the how. So before the what is even clearly defined, all of a sudden, the how is what they're getting bogged down with. And I always say, listen, until the what is clearly defined, you don't really need to worry about the how, right? seriously, why do you have to worry about the how when you haven't defined the what? Let's put your energy into there first, because that how is often a place of resistance. Frankly, it might be a knee-jerk reaction, right, to your own inner judgment, your fears that are coming up. Who do I think I am to want to go for this? I'm not smart enough, pretty enough, rich enough, whatever enough, young enough, old enough to go for these things, right? It's all those limiting beliefs that come up that will start to block us with the how. And it can seem very plausible and realistic, but many times it's just limiting beliefs and assumptions that we hold that don't even allow us to get off of, frankly, first base. So my guidance to you listening to this is to really clarify and paint the picture of what your vision looks like so that somebody else can follow that. Now, I want to illustrate this by a story that I had recently, and it's not linked to business. And it really does go to show that when we have a vision for something as leaders, getting other people on board often takes a lot more than one try. Promise you this. And I would say that that's another mistake that business leaders make. They have their vision, they do all the work around it, they communicate it perhaps once at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year to team and people that would be, need to be involved with that. And then it's forgotten. And for everybody else, what you don't realize is they're all going off track. They've forgotten the vision as well. It doesn't take just once. We've got to constantly keep realigning our strategies, our people, and our resources to that vision. So what was my personal story? Well, we've been doing a little bit of home renovation recently. I love some before and afters, right? I love to see some transformations. We decided that we were starting with what I call light renovation. It wasn't a complete tear down and like destroying everything. It was really let's say a part of the overall vision that I have for the house that we currently live in. Now, the bigger vision could take us a good couple of years to pull off. But we decided that it made sense not to do everything at once, that we were actually breaking it down into a couple of milestones. Part of that was even we wanted to get on board with that bigger vision for ourselves and kind of see what that initial work would even look like. And did we want to make that much bigger investment in our current home? So some of the things that we did, changing floors, changing lighting, a lot of painting internally, painting woodwork. And one of the projects that I had for our living room was a new fireplace. And now this was a really important vision to me because when we did a previous renovation, whilst our fireplace it really did look gorgeous, the external part of it looked gorgeous, the internal part of that fireplace was not how I wanted it to be. And the team that I was working with right then, we didn't get on the same page. There was a little bit of miscommunication. And I ended up with something that was not the standard and the level of beauty that I wanted it at. And by then, we'd reached our budgets on certain things. And it was like, okay, now I have to accept it. So I learned from that, right? I really learned from that process around I have to be clear about what is really important to me and what are some non-negotiables, places that I'm just not willing to lower my standards. So going into this second time around, I have done all the usual things. I have got, Instagram posts, little Pinterest boards, all the visuals of exactly how I want this fireplace to look. We hire somebody who's very much an artisan. So the agreement was they were very much going to build this pretty much brick by brick. And I was very clear to say, this is the interior that I want in the fireplace. I didn't get it before. This is really important to me. It is really important that we get this right. And I need to be involved every step of the way to keep approving. Now, there was one part in this, and I think it's, again, very telling as leaders and how this translates into business, where my gut was starting to say, I'm not sure he's getting it, even though I showed multiple pictures. We had many discussions and meetings, but there was something nagging in my gut to say something's up here. Anyway, my gut, we have to listen to it from time to time, right? It's often giving us some information. We were coming to a critical point in building out this fireplace when it came to the external part of it and the stone and the surround. And I had very precise ideas. And fortunately, I happened to be in the house at the time when this was happening. And I'm watching my guy starting to build it out completely off vision. I mean, in all honesty, I have no idea, given the pictures and the briefs and all of the discussions that we had, I just had no idea how we managed to get so off of the vision. But clearly what was happening here, right? And this is what happens in business. I've got that clear image. I believe I've communicated it clearly. He obviously had an image in his mind, different styles perhaps that came in, different biases. He was definitely old school. Later, I discovered that he'd actually never built anything like this. Whilst he's had decades and decades of experience, he's since shared with me that this is probably one of his pieces that he's now most proud of, but he hadn't created it before. Possibly, I could have asked about that. I could have actually asked him, show me some of the work that you've created previously. It would have probably given me some good indications of how I really needed to communicate very, very precisely each step of the way. But okay, we had a conversation. I had to stop everything immediately and say, whoa, we've got to come back to that original vision, rediscuss this, because this is not going in the direction. And was there a little bit of resistance in there? Yes, there was. It was going to take him longer to build it out. He thought he was on the right path. I knew he wasn't. But again, we just came back and I kept coming back to the vision and why it was important and pulled out all of the drawings, right? And all of the photos and everything. So there was just no denying where we were headed. Today, we are pretty much done. There's just a couple of little tweaks, right, to really get it to that place where it's going to be perfect. And frankly, I'm delighted. But I learned a lot around vision and frankly, leadership and realigning and having to have some of those tough conversations along the way. Because even when I was absolutely sure that that vision was crystal clear, once we got into execution, it was obvious that it wasn't. And as leaders, this is so important. We cannot just let our teams or let our, providers, contractors, whoever we are working with, we just communicate once and then we let them run with it. And then we check in at the end when there's a delivered product, when often they have put too much time, energy, and resources into it. We're expecting that delivered product the way we want it. And then we find that we are completely off base. So we have to build in these milestones, right? These meetings where we keep coming together and keep realigning. For me as well, and I share this one more personally, something I have struggled with over the years, and I know I've made a lot of progress with this, and I've still got a ways to go. But sticking to my vision and the standards that I am looking for and that I expect and I'm paying for can still be challenging for me. It still brings up some of those old stories, and I'm not convinced they're my old stories. I think they're societal. That am I being too demanding? Am I being too ambitious? Am I being too this, that, and the other? Am I now being bitchy or perceived as being bitchy because I'm saying, no, this isn't going to work, and I'm having to reestablish those boundaries and reestablish the direction that we're going. So yes, I felt a lot of discomfort in that process. And what I was grateful for was the vision that I had, that I'd had a learning experience previously. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go down that path. I backed off previously, and this time we're doing this differently. And I really want you to think about those lessons for you, for how they play out in your business, whatever that next level of vision is. How do you have to show up differently to it? What are the new standards that you have to hold? What are the non-negotiables? How do you keep aligning your team, the people that are supporting you, so that you are on track? Because it's not enough to set that vision and then just walk away from it, frankly, and expect it's all going to fall into place. And then when things are misaligned, how do you have those conversations in a powerfully aligned way so that you get to the outcome that you want to? As always, I'd love to hear from you. What's resonating in today's episode? And I also want to give you a challenge. I want you to leave this podcast today and go craft your 5-year vision. What is it that you secretly desire? What is it that where do you want to make that impact? What is that bigger value proposition that you know that you're here for? What do you want freedom to look like? What do you want money to look like? What do you want your team to look like? Who do you want to be serving 5 years from now? What platforms might you be developing so that you can get your message out in a clearer way? And start to write that vision as if you've already achieved it, right in the present tense, as if you've already achieved it. And here's a tip, is if you start to feel excited and just a little bit scared when you read it back, chances are you have crafted a compelling vision. So I can't wait to hear from you. Please let me know what's resonating. And as always, like, share, leave a comment below and a positive review. We love to hear from you.